Welcome on in, boys and girls. This is our weekly DFS live stream, a video/stream where we get a chance to take a look at last week's results, whether they were good or bad, and try and learn a little something, right? Whether you're out there, you're killing it week to week, you should definitely be looking back on your process, trying to figure out what went right and what went wrong, because even when you take down GPPs, I can tell you for a fact, there are certainly mistakes that are going to be made. When you're dealing with 140-something players, it's hard to get everyone right. So let's brush those egos aside. Let's try and get our hands a little bit dirty here and get ready to sharpen the axe, as some of the wise people out there will say. So welcome on in, everybody that's already down there in live chat. We got Breakfast Ball already firing off a first comment. Love to see it. Love the enthusiasm here on a Monday morning. And as per usual here, guys, if you have any lineups you want reviewed, any of your contests you want me to take a look at, go ahead, throw them down in chat. We do have the community contest this week, which of course we'll be going through the results there. My lineup, a few of you guys down in chat, I'm sure, will be popping in wanting your lineups reviewed. Let's get it. So let's go ahead and start right now, right? We're not going to delay at all here. And let's start with a look at, I guess, the large field GPP. So don't want to give away my results yet. We'll take a look at those here in a second. But more importantly, your GPP winner this week was definitely a contrarian build. I mean, outside of Wyndham Clark, right, your highest owned player was a Sam Burns at 14%. And in terms of your top end finishers, a majority of the quote unquote chalk this week, especially outside of that, I'd say 10 and 9K range, really didn't get there. Right? I mean, Adam Hadwin, right, was a huge fade there in that 9K range. But a lot of those top of the 7K range golfers fell flat on their face this week. So when you click through some of these top end lineups, you can see Wyndham Clark, of course, made a bunch of birdies. So he's like the one piece of chalk you'll see up there. Wyndham, guys like Fleetwood, Spieth, and JT, right? Sure, they got ownership, but I'm not going to classify them as chalk because everyone up top was getting that ownership. But look at this, right? Taylor Moore was only 8.5%. We'll talk about him later, of course. Great win for him. 4.8% Aberg, 5.7% Smalley. I mean, just every lineup up here, right? Like, the only chalky player is Wyndham Clark. And you can see he's in pretty much all of those lineups. He, at $8,800, was the absolute nuts this week. And it wasn't that he was the highest scorer, right? Taylor Moore scored, 13 more points than him. Jordan Spieth scored 5.5 more points than a Wyndham Clark. It was the price tag. It was the type of build that you put you in, because you can see up here, none of them took two 10K options, right? There's not a Burns Spieth lineup up here. There's not a JT Burns. There's not a JT Spieth lineup up here, so on and so forth. It's all this 8K range, right? Where you had a Wyndham Clark, you had the Taylor Moores, JT Poston had a really good week. Steven Yeager, $7,800, was a player that you could have gone to. So just that 8K range, I think, was a lot stronger this week than most people expected. I hammered that 8K range. I played a lot of guys in that range, but I didn't think it was going to work out nearly the way that it did. So a lot of my builds did have like a Jordan Spieth and a JT together, or Jordan Spieth, Sam Burns, or Jordan Spieth, and unfortunately a Matt Fitzpatrick in a few of those lineups. But yeah, that wasn't the way to go this week. You guys can see that that more balanced build got it done. I guess the Spieth Fleetwood lineup, right, would, I guess, classify as more like a studs and duds approach. They had Doc Redman down low, who of course was only $6,200, and a hell of a play at that. So hats off to him. He's able to go out there and be like the only guy up top that used that studs and duds kind of build. But you can see it was hard to pull off, right? There was one with Cameron Percy up there. Again, I did not see that coming from Cameron Percy. So hats off to you if you made that play there. And you can see Adam Schenk. He wasn't even in a bunch of these top lineups. You can see, right, 12th place had Adam Schenk. I believe first place did too. Yeah, first place had Adam Schenk. Second did too. But a lot of like the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth place lineups did not have Adam Schenk. So you didn't have to be perfect. That's for damn sure. Let's take a look at my lineups now. So let's scroll up to the top here. I had a few in contention, and I wasn't even tracking it here on Sunday. I was on the course. I really didn't even think I had a shot. Like I had, I believe it was 42 6 of 6 lineups this week, which is I mean, at least comparatively was excellent. I was about 8x the field in that department. But they all had like JT, right? They were all extremely aggressive up top. This was one of the only builds of my entire set of 150 that took this balanced approach, right? Where it took one guy up top. It happened to be JT for me in this kind of lineup. You had Taylor Moore, Poston, and KH Lee in that lineup. By the way, KH Lee just made a shit ton of birdies. You can see 20 on the week, so good for him. Had a few streaks there going. You can see 2 birdie streaks over the week too. So he definitely outperformed his placement there. So I loved that play this week. But you can see like this wasn't rocket science, right? Like EVR was a pretty solid value for his price tag, was essentially unowned. Webb Simpson, right? I'm going to take a chance on his long-term skill set, right? He finished there in the top 10. His second best lineup was essentially the same thing, right? With Jordan Spieth up top. So I guess I didn't only have like one lineup that took that balanced approach, but I wish I had more, right? Because all of my lineups at the top here were balanced. Whereas you go a little bit further down, let's see, let's get rid of these Taylor Moore lineups. Obviously, the Taylor Moore ones are going to go to the top. But you can see like Spieth McNeely. There's going to be JT Spieth ones here in a second. You can tell like they weren't my best line. So you can tell the lineup construction standpoint was really important this week, right? Because like Gary Woodland, for example, like this is the perfect example. Okay, guys, he scored 53 points, right? But a lot of these lineups are towards the top as opposed to the ones with JT and Spieth, because you can see he outscored him by 18 points. But that salary difference, right? The players that it took you away from down low was the ultimate difference this week. So it was more of a lineup construction week than anything. This was a $750 entry, right? I did 150 lineups at $5 a piece. Just a little bit less than a double up, right? A little bit less than a $600 profit, which essentially is non-existent to me, guys. Like when I'm playing these contests, I'm going for first place. I'm going for one of those top end finishes. Winning $600 is nice, right? Just like I kind of blow off when I lose like $200 in a week in these GPPs. You know, I'm not going to be very happy about winning $600 either, right? That's just kind of like the status quo out here, what you should be used to when playing these contests. What you're really looking for is binking that top end upside. So for as much as it's nice to quote unquote profit on the week, it's not really satisfactory to me. It's just like, you know, kind of what you'd expect out there. You're going to have weeks where you're winning $400, $500. You're going to have weeks where you're losing that $400, $500. It's just all about finding that top end upside 1, 2, sometimes 3 times a year in a contest that's going to be 83,000 entries. So on my side, I'd say I'm relatively satisfied with how I ended up doing this week. Over in the main community contest, I finished in 12th out of 50th, which I believe was 2 slots off of the money. Yeah, it was. So that was a little bit unfortunate. I was hoping to at least get into the green there, but a heck of the lineups out there in front of me. My lineup here was a 4 of 6 in this build, which, I mean, Luke List, Cole Hammer, I was looking pretty after Thursday's action. I mean, JT and Jordan were in contention. Will Gordon, he shot 1 under his first day, but he made a bunch of birdies. Alex Smalley was up there in the top 5. And after the morning wave, I was in first place of like a lot of the single entry GPPs, which of course it doesn't matter, right? It's freaking halfway through the first round on Thursday. But I was like, okay, Luke List, Cole Hammer, go out there, make the cut. And we're looking at a 6 of 6, right? I was looking a little bit too far ahead at that point. And you can see +4 on Thursday, +5 on Thursday, which is like kicking the nuts for those two in conditions that weren't even all that difficult. So could have been a lot better from the single entry side if we got a few of those lineups through there. But hey, you're not gonna win in every contest. Let's just say that. Let's catch up on chat. What's going on? Marco says, "Good morning. Posted your slip on Discord. Sweet. We'll take a look at that here in 1 second." I know you had a pretty good week there, Marco. I know you sent me that screenshot last night. So nice little profit there. Breakfast Ball says, would love for me to review yours. You're in the 925th place. Ooh, I'm not in the Millie Maker this week. So Breakfast Ball, what I'm going to have you do is go ahead and just put the 6 players down in chat. So if you could put their price tag, that would also be helpful. So go ahead and do that, and I'll get you for them. Great call on JT. Reverted back to those putting woes late, but it was well worth the price tag. Yeah, I mean, the putting was just horrendous. He missed a few 3-footers. Jordan, I don't even want to talk about it. I can't believe I haven't even mentioned the whole Jordan thing at this point. Chandler brought it up, right? Thought Jordan was going to take it home. Yeah, I'm not okay with the top 3 finish, guys. I saw him 2 weeks ago at the API. He should have won that event easily, in my opinion, right? Makes just putts that he's supposed to make on a Sunday, and he easily wins the API. And then that shot on 16, I don't know if they showed his reaction. They were probably following the golf ball. He hit it, and by the time the ball was 5 feet off in front of him, like literally instantaneously after he made contact, he threw the club and was just so disgusted with himself. And, you know, as a huge Jordan Spieth fan, that's like just the most soul-crushing thing to watch. It was just brutal to say the least. I was talking to a few buddies around there, and like my voice literally choked up because I was that distraught about it. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? He's like, did that just happen? So yeah, a lot of scar tissue there. I'll just say that much. That was probably the most brutal thing that I've ever seen in golf. I mean, I'm sure if you were a Mito fan and you saw the thing on the US Open, right, where PGA Championship, where he shanks it off to the right there. I mean, it was the same kind of thing, right? The only thing he couldn't do was hit a water ball on 16, and he's at least getting into a playoff. Like at the very least, like 17, 18, he absolutely killed those 2 holes. He obviously would have 2-putt there in 18, right? If he was still tied for the lead. He was getting a little bit aggressive there with the putt trying to make it. But yeah, dude, brutal. Just, I don't know, man. He seems broken. Like you can't go into the final round like that and choke 2 weeks in a row. That's just, it's not what top end players do. So just unfortunate to see the least. All right, let's take a look at some of these lineups down in chat. So let me bring up your lineup, Marco. We'll go through it. I know you DM'd me that yesterday, so go ahead and find that for you. Where are you at? Oh, you didn't DM me. It's actually in the main chat. Perfect. That works too. Alrighty, we'll share our screen and hop into that. So Marco, you came in 40th place. I'm assuming this is a single entry contest, just based on the payout, the score structure, all that sort of things. And looks pretty consistent to me. I mean, right, like JT up top, McNeely as your second man in, right? Wasn't the best play this week, but also wasn't the worst play. Poston, Gordon, Smalley, Bramlett. I mean, I have no issues with this lineup. It's leverage galore, right? You had 125% owned play and then all leverage plays, which in single entry is kind of like how I like to handle things, right? Like if there's going to be 1-2 pieces of chalk you want to take, I'm okay with doing so, especially when you have a 3% owned McNeely. What is it? Is that 2% owned on Poston? Let me see. Let me zoom in there. Yeah, 1.68%. Will Gordon was even relatively low owned, which is actually kind of surprising. People usually like playing Will Gordon. Smalley, 4%. Bramlett, 4%. Great lineup, man. I like the construction. In single entries, right? Those leverage plays are going to be even more leveraged than the rest of the pack. And honestly, I don't really have any constructive criticism for you here, Marco, because I think the lineup was fantastic, right? Like, sure, you could have played Spieth up top, right? Gotten a few more points there. Really didn't matter that much at the end of the day. You still would have cashed out maybe for like $100 more, but I liked JT just as much as Jordan Spieth this week. It's worth noting, we're going to get to my exposure later. I had over 50% of JT and Spieth this week. I went absolutely nuts on the 2 of them, and I actually had a little bit more JT this week than Spieth, so I tend to agree with your play up top there. So, yeah, he was just honestly a putter away from having that big week. What's going on, Antonio? So what's up, bro? You're gutted for Shank. Yeah, dude, that was crazy too. So like, I know I'm being a little bitch about the whole Jordan Spieth thing. Like legitimately was pissed off all day yesterday about it. We're good this morning. It's in the past, right? It's a fucking golf tournament. But if you were an Adam Shank fan, if you had an outright bet on Adam Shank, you have legitimate gripe, right? That's not you acting like a whiny little bitch like I am right now. He got completely fucked on 18, right? Hitting that ball against the tree there, having to hit lefty. That's probably like one of the 2 times all week that somebody had to take a shot off a tree like that. And it happened to a guy on his 72nd hole. And yeah, like I said, just ridiculous stuff. What was it? Hole number 16. He had a relatively short putt it was hole number 14. He had a birdie putt that was relatively short. Ended up lipping that out. He ended up having that putt that went like 15 feet past the hole in hole number 8. It just, he should have won the golf tournament. Like 100% should have at least been in a playoff or won that golf tournament. So yeah, I'm gutted for him too, man. That's unfortunate. Like I said, I'm a little bitch about the whole Jordan Spieth thing, but if you're an Adam Shank fan, you definitely have a foot to stand on there. Let's take a look at the winner in this contest. It was Ryan 3v1, who I'm not sure his name over here on YouTube. So hats off to you if you're watching this on replay out there. But he ended up having one of those balanced kind of builds, right? Now, it wasn't 10K down into the 8K, which was, I would say, the prototype for this week, right? Like if this was Wyndham Clark as opposed to Denny McCarthy, I mean, this could have been pretty close to the nuts lineup. But you can see it's 10K, 9K, and then 8, and then pretty balanced here in the 7s, right? There's not that, dud option. That's like $6,100, $6,200 in this lineup. You don't have a bunch of guys in the 10K range. You don't have to go down to the 6K range twice in this kind of build. So, I don't want to overreact too much, right? A lot of times, we look at these, we try and look at what lineup construction won. This doesn't mean that next week we only play like 10, 9, 8s, right? One of those really consistent kind of builds. It changes week to week, right? Just a few weeks ago, that studs and duds was the kind of approach that was getting it done, which in an elevated field event makes sense, right? When you have the top 5, top 10 players in the world playing, you want to try and jam in as many of them as humanly possible. But perhaps when we get one of these regular field events going forward, we do consider using this kind of approach. So I think that's the important part, is trying to find these trends in the strength of field and based on what kind of lineups are actually filtering towards the top. And it makes sense for a weaker field event, right? these guys in the 9 and 8K range are even better than some of the guys in the 6 and 7K range, at least comparatively, when you compare them to one of these elevated fields. Because I mean, think about it, guys. What Fleetwood was like $7,100, right? A few events ago for an elevated field. Like Lowry was $7,200, right? If you're getting those kind of guys at $7,200, I mean, the 8K guys, right, aren't even all that much better. Whereas this week, right, you were going from Taylor Moore, who won the damn golf tournament, right? Gsluke, guys like JT Poston, who are just significantly better players than some of the guys, especially in the 6K range. So I think that's the important thing to note from that side. So hats off to you, Ryan. Pretty solid lineup. BJH says we got JT, Poston, Cage, Lee, and Jaeger. So this is that balanced kind of build. And what your cheapest guy was a Bramlett. So again, somebody executing that kind of build beautifully there. I know Glavka watches this quite a bit out there. So Chris's lineup did have Matty Fitzpatrick. It still had a pretty good showing there. Extremely balanced build, right? So even though he went with his 2 10K options, he skipped the 8K range entirely, which I would say was a little bit sub-ideal, but I mean, it's hard to argue with the results, right? He finished in 3rd out of 50 people, a top 6% kind of outcome there for good old Chris. And I like all the plays, right? He had Adam Schenk. I mean, I didn't see that one coming. So that's an impressive play there, I have to say. Adam Schenk this week, have to admit, did not see that coming. And the driving for Schenk, I'd always kind of give him this like rap of not being the best driver. That is completely gone in my book. He was out driving Spieth by 20 yards and hitting almost every single fairway there on Saturday and Sunday. So great play there. Good lineup. Is this the same lineup? It is. So this is the same lineup that you had before you entered it there, finished in 4th. Good job there, Marco. Let's see what else we've got down here in chat. Let's look at the last place lineup. I usually don't like doing this. Oh, it was T-Swins. Yeah, we're not even going to say anything. T-Swin's a good guy. I'm not going to give him shit there, but let's see. Yeah, it's just a bunch of guys that had missed cuts, right? That's going to happen. Well, yeah, Ben down there, T-Swins. Oh, boy. Yeah, you guys, obviously, if you have a 2 out of 6, it's not going to go very well. I didn't play a lot of those guys, so unfortunate. Oh, I have to say, now that I remember, how about Cameron Champ, guys? He almost made the cut for us this week, and he played a lot better than the score indicated. I mean, the approach play was there. He was hitting a bunch of greens regulation, which you don't usually see from Cameron Champ. Did have a few 3 putts, which he's prone to. So, even though he was hitting those greens, he really wasn't taking all that much advantage of it. But that off the tee play it could have been even better too. So Cameron Champ, I think things are moving in the right direction for him. I had talked about that extensively going into this week, how the shots gained metrics are starting to look a little bit more favorable for him. Well, even though he missed the cut on the number this week, I can tell you that they looked even better from the shots gained perspective. So if you're keeping an eye on Cameron Champ, you're tracking him out there, trying to get a read on maybe when to deploy him, that kind of thing for an outright. I think if we get a driving heavy course here in the next month or so, and he continues to go out there and produce the way that he is, could be looking at that pop performance for Cameron. So I'm going to be there. That's for damn sure. I know Corey likes watching these, so we'll look at his lineup. So Corey, he had a 3 out of 6. Okay, so that was the main issue there. But Fleetwood was a great play up top. Rosie. So you were going with, I think this is a weather stack, I believe, because I know Fleetwood and Rose, right, were that PM AM. I believe Eric Cole was too. So yeah, this might have been a weather stack. I'm not against that at all. This was almost certainly a weather stack with Martin. Not a horrible lineup whatsoever. Rosie, though, is your top man in. I have to say, Rosie winning at Pebble Beach, I thought that was the outlier. I don't know if he's going to have another win this year. I don't want to talk shit about the guy because as soon as I do, he's going to go out there and win next week. But yeah, J Rose is your first man in. I guess would be my only constructive criticism to give you there. I know Nick watches these. He had Matty Fitz up top. Okay. List who I was on, Molnax as well. Yeah, this lineup I have no issues with. It was how I built most of my lineups, right? It was a little bit more aggressive up top. And then mostly skipping the 8K range. You can see he still took one guy in the 8K range. So 1 rather than 2 in this kind of build. Don't really have anything to say there either, Nick. I actually thought that was a pretty good lineup. Let's see. I know Harley watches these. Let's see. Johnny Vegas missed cut. Matthias Schwab missed cut, but 4 out of 6. Yeah, I have no problems here, guys. Like, I was completely with you guys with the studs and duds kind of build, right? With those, I mean, even if you include Fleetwood and Rose up there, right? And then Fitz, Burns, JT, and Spieth, Those 6 players, and honestly, Fleetwood and Rose, I would probably leave out of that conversation. But even if you wanted to, right, those 6 players were so much better than everybody else. I see why everyone was jamming them in. Like, everyone did that. I mean, I know that's what I did this week. I know I talked about it on stream, so I guess that makes sense. But like, even in the large field GPPs, I mean, if we go over here and just like go through, let's not go through like the top lineups. Let's go down to like 100. Let's go down to like the 200 range down here. That's how like everyone built. I mean, like some of them went to like 8K, and that's why they're at here at the top. Let's go down a little bit further. Let's go to like the 500s, where like you had an okay lineup this week. Yeah, studs and duds, studs and duds, not a studs and duds. So I guess not every lineup went that direction. Maybe I'm being a little bit exaggerating just a little bit there, but you guys get the point. A lot of these lineups, right, are studs and duds kind of lineups. A lot of them do have Taylor Moore, right, because that's how you get into the top 500 of a GPP. So perhaps let's go down a little bit further. Well, let's look at my worst lineup. This is also a fun exercise we can do. Our worst lineup was a 3 out of 6. So still, our worst lineup still getting a 3 out of 6. That was pretty nice. Of course, it had Matty Fitz in it. Tyler Duncan, Trey Molinax, but they missed the cut. Like, yeah, actually, Trey Molinax only missed the cut by 2 there. Tyler Duncan did not have a good week. Let's see, 4 out of 6. And you guys can see, guys, my worst lineups this week, right, were like 4 out of 6s. So that's why I had so many 6 of 6s. Even with Matty Fitz in my lineups, I had, what was it, like 44 6 of 6 lineups. That's how you get to winning $1,300 despite not having a top 10 lineup in the pool. Let's catch up on chat, and then we're going to bring up our little ownership projections here and talk through a few things, a few trends I noticed on that side before we hop on out of here. Let's see what's going on down there. I got to get this coffee in me, guys. It's still way too early for me. What's going on, Yaziel? The GOAT is Tom Kim. I always defer that comment to him. Definitely not me. I'm not the GOAT. You got 6 in that lineup in your contest. All right, yeah, so let me take a look at it. You said that you had that in the Millie Maker, which you cashed with, so nice there. I know you were saying you were sweating that this weekend. You messaged me about that. Let's take a look at your lineup, though. So 6th place. Is this you? Dana Pie? I think it is. So we're going to assume this is your lineup. You had Victor Perez. Okay. He was, I don't know. Is this your lineup, or am I looking at the wrong thing here? You got 6th in that lineup. Or maybe you were in the other community contest, because I know there's 2 that we run on there. If this is your lineup, hell of a lineup to get 6 of 6 through. I would say Victor Perez, right, was a little bit more chalky in GPPs than he was in our contest. So a lot of that was because I pointed him out as a fade. So that actually wasn't the worst play to get to him in this kind of contest, right, because people are going to avoid him because of that. But Wyndham Clark, hell of a week. I liked Gary there. At least he made the cut for us. SH Kim, he made a bunch of birdies and eagles. You can see 11 birdies, 1 eagle. So he wasn't the worst scorer there. Really consistent lineup. So if this is the lineup you went with, I'm not sure if this is your lineup or not here. I like it. I like the lineup construction, right? You hit the nuts, right? You went from the 10K down into the 8K, like all the other top lineups were doing. And your cheapest player was Dylan Wu, who was, you can see he was chalky, right? 22% owned, but that's because people in this contest do a lot of research, right? They're part of my Patreon and whatnot. And Dylan Wu, based on the stats, was an excellent play. So nothing to say there. I like it a whole lot if that was your lineup. Let's go over here, bring up our projections. There we go. Wasn't T-Swen's chirping about his leadership points? He was. He 100% was. And hey, I'm good buds with T-Swen, so I'm not going to give him shit for it. But yeah, you pointed it out, not me, right? You finished in 10th place. Let's take a look at your lineup there, Rob. Did you revisit? You did miss it, Nick, but we'll go over it again. You actually didn't get roasted at all. I actually really like your lineup, Nick. But you can see Rob took my spot there. I was hoping to finish in 10th place, take that little min cash down in this contest, but Rob was able to edge me out there. He had a 5 of 6, so wasn't even a 6 of 6 up top. But I like all these plays. You had the lineup construction part nailed. So going in that 10K down into the 8K, that was the nuts this week. I would say, obviously, you might have wanted like a Taylor Moore instead of a Ben Griffin. I mean, everyone can say that in hindsight, right? But I like this lineup construction a lot. Will Gordon was a little bit more chalky in our contest than most, so don't worry about that 18%. Ben Griffin was a lot more chalky in our contest than pretty much every other contest. So that's chalk here, but not chalk elsewhere. I like it. Trey Molinax should have made the damn cut. I had a bunch of lineups that had him as like the one guy that missed in a 5 of 6, and he wasn't doing anything birdie wise. He made 5 birdies in 2 rounds. You can't do that, Trey. You got to go out there, lean into what you're good at, which is being an aggressive birdie maker. And he was trying to play par golf and couldn't even put pars up there, right? Had 5 bogeys, 2 doubles. Boy, oh boy. I never get Trey Molinax right. I have to say that. He's a high upside golfer that I play a whole lot, but it feels like when I take him, it's when he's flopping. And when I'm fading Trey Molinax, it's when he's going out there and posting top 5, top 10. So I'm right there with you. I like the lineup construction. I mean, yeah, even with like a couple sorry plays like a Ben Griffin who underperformed, right? You still got into the cash. So that just shows you the utility in building in this fashion. You don't have to be perfect. I mean, if you're going to take that studs and duds approach, let's see. Did anyone really do that? Let's see. I'm going to go through this because the cheapest player I saw, I feel like, is Dylan Wu, $6,800. Lots of people took Dylan Wu. You can see there was like a whole train of people there that all had Dylan Wu. I guess me, right? Am I the only one that went with the studs and duds? I might have been, because I'm the only one crazy enough to do that kind of shit. Right? Like I took JT and Jordan together in this lineup and then went to Cole Hammer down low. Let's see. Let's scroll through them. I think I'm the only psycho in this contest. It's good to know going into the future. Nope, we got one more. CB. He's right there with me playing Wesley Bryan down there. Love it. Let's see. Any other completes? Oh, we got somebody to play Cole Hammer. Oh, BGO. You're one of my people out there going to those really nasty plays down low. And Cameron Champ. Oh boy. Yeah, Bigo. He's a certified psycho guy when it comes to DFS. I love it. Gribble. Oh, okay. We found the number one psycho in this contest, guys. Jaguar played Cody Gribble at $6,100. We need to get this guy down in chat. I need to know why you played Cody Gribble, how you knew that he was going to play well this week, and how you were feeling after 3 rounds. I have to say that's impressive as hell. I have to say, dude. Cody Gribble. I hardly knew the guy existed before this week, and this guy's putting him in his single entry lineup in a GPP contest. Like, get real, bro. That's unbelievable, that play. You got to get him down there. Nick says, you're late. Did you miss your roasting? Yeah, you did. Your lineup, I just told you I'd go through it, and then I bring up the other screen. What am I doing here? You can tell it's early on a Monday. Where are you at? I know the lineup didn't place very well, Nick, but I do like your lineup. You had Brace Face up there, which is what it is. I don't think it was the worst play. You had the studs and duds approach like I did, which I'm perfectly fine with. You had List, who I also played in this contest, and then Molinax, who we just talked about. So my, I guess, review of your lineup was that I liked it. It was the same kind of lineup that I went with this week, just didn't work out, right? Obviously, if you had Spieth or JT, I think you would have been a little bit closer to cashing with this kind of lineup. Was that like a 50-point difference? You would have been at like 340, 350. Yeah, you would have been right around where my lineup is, right? So like right there on the edge of cashing. Not the worst lineup in human history. Just looks a little bit worse than it actually was in reality because your guy at the top missed the cut, right? And he was, him and Hadman missed the cut there in the 10 and 9K range, and that was it. So if you had one of those guys miss the cut, it was going to be a tough scene to go out there and cash. So no roasting to be done here this week, Nick. You're good to go on that end. You're absolved. Let's see what we've got down there. It's you, Word. Who picks so many golfers leaving the PGA for Live? Sorry, I can't even read. I was reading what's above, your name there. Who picks worse than Mayo? But you said with so many golfers leaving for the PGA to Live. In these unelevated events, you really have to dig deep to find reliable golfers. That's true. Like a Dylan Wu, right? Like that's why so many people played him, because he's been, at least recently, right, a pretty consistent cut maker. Now, historically, he's not been that guy. I think that's a good way to put it, right? Like the guy who played Cody Gribble, that unbelievable play, first off, but you're a certified psycho out there. If you're going to try and find a 6 of 6 lineup, you're going to take that shot down there in the 6K range. You might have to be a little bit more selective this week, right? Like I went to Cole Hammer. That was a pure flyer play. Like I expected him to miss the cut out there. But when he makes cuts, Cole Hammer, you look at his track record, right? He typically tends to, make it count, right? RSM Classic comes to mind, nearly won that golf tournament. A few other top 25 finishes. So yeah, it definitely changes my thought process going forward, because in these weaker field events, I think you have to try and avoid the 6K range if at all possible. And if you're going to get there, you have to be damn sold on a player. So I took quite a few shots down there this week. Maybe I don't take as many going forward. So yeah, definitely agree with you there. That lineup was just for your contest. Gotcha. Okay. If you want me to take a look at your Millie Maker contest or your 1mm, I'm actually not even sure what the 1mm is, but go ahead and post it down there. I was kind of just taking a guess on what you were saying there. Make a $20 community contest for your Sharks. Yeah, I can make a few more, Marco. We've got to up the size on the main contest because we're filling it at 50 players every single week. But we'll make one that's probably going to be 100 players here soon, and then maybe we'll have a $20 contest soon. That'd be nice, Marco. Hopefully, we can get a rake-free contest. Then we can make it a little bit more expensive, so we're not playing at a huge disadvantage with that rake there. In terms of the ownership stuff, guys, I guess there wasn't a ton to note here. You can see Davis Riley. I projected him to come in higher owned than he actually did. That was really surprising to me, right? He was coming in with form in last year. Nearly won the golf tournament, right? He was in a freaking playoff against Sam Burns. So I really thought people would get there. They did not. So that I guess that was a little bit surprising. You can see it was actually a little bit lower on Justin Thomas's ownership than I may have expected. It's a little bit lower on Tommy Fleetwood and Justin Rose. Now, the Fleetwood and Rose makes sense. The reason why I was lower on their ownership is this was weather edge based. People were looking at the weather early in the week, right? Saw that the PM AM wave might get an advantage here. And in reality, guys, they really didn't see any sort of advantage, right? Which more often than not, with a 4-round sample size, weather usually doesn't make a huge impact, or at least it's hard to project what that impact is going to be. So, if people, I don't want to say overreacting, because I understand the play. Like you see the weather, right? That's the only information we have. You acted on that information, but that definitely steamed up their ownership. So you can see he got a little bit more ownership there. Wyndham Clark, right? There wasn't a lot of PM guys up here, right? Most of the guys were AM tee times. They're in like the top 20 of pricing. So Wyndham Clark, one of the only guys in the 8K range that was in that wave, right? 4% higher owned, 4% higher owned, 4% higher owned. So it makes sense, right? That 4% little bump there was likely due to the weather. So that's something that we can probably track going forward. You can see that Matty Fitz was only about 1% higher owned. So I guess people are just a little bit more enthralled with playing that top 3. The JT ownership, people just love playing JT. So maybe I just got to account for that going forward. But you can see the Jordan Spieth ownership. Boy, oh boy, am I locked in on that guy, right? 0% difference. Literally like the exact ownership. What was it? He was 2.57% owned. I had him at 2.55% owned. So literally as close as we're going to get there. Let's go down to this 7K range. A few other guys that were higher owned than we expected. That would have been a Steven Yeager and Nick Taylor of all people, which that one's surprising. 12% owned Nick Taylor. I did not see that coming. Honestly, like I know he's a PM wave golfer. I guess that's it, right? But like Steven Yeager wasn't a PM wave golfer. So that wasn't the reason for the steam that he was getting. I guess people pivoted. It looks like they pivoted off of, Victor Perez to a Steven Yeager, right? And I know a lot of shows, including myself, right, were talking up Victor Perez as a fade. So maybe that was part of it. I know there were other shows doing the same thing that were looking at Perez's ownership and going, that is just egregious. And 90% of the time, the pivot that people were pointing out were a Steven Yeager or a Johnny Vegas. So not that surprising that Vegas was a little bit higher owned than we expected. And then, Steven Yeager got a lot of that ownership. That's pretty apparent there with the projections. Let's see. Ryan Gerard, you can see I was actually a little bit more bullish on him than what most people were, which I don't have to say is not all that surprising. If you were looking at the stats, if you were somebody that was doing models or anything like that, it was going to point you to a Ryan Gerard, but that's still a small subset of the community. So not a huge surprise. Sam Ryder got some steam there too, another PM wave golfer. So you've seen that a lot of these guys that have gone that steam were the guys in the PM wave, which I think a lot of that's weather-based. Mark Hubbard, you can see he was steamed up, right? Another PM wave golfer. Let's see. Dylan Wu, right? Another PM wave golfer, right? And you can see that 4% difference. So these quote-unquote like core plays, right, from the PM wave just got a ton of ownership, like comparatively. You can see everything else, right, was within like 1% in terms of the ownership projections. And then a few little outliers out there. You can see I actually thought more people would play Smotherman than did. That's just probably a one-time off kind of thing there. There's probably no rhyme or reason for that. But Dylan Wu was a pretty good guy that you could have pivoted to, but like Mark Hubbard missed the cut, right? A lot of people played him because of the weather there. Sam Ryder, what did he score? 66 points. Yeah, he made the cut. He had a pretty decent week. But all these like PM Wave golfers, they didn't all do amazing, right? A lot of them made the cut, but not. I mean, other than Wyndham Clark, I don't know if any of them were in the Nuts lineup. In fact, I don't think any of them were, right? We're in that lineup up top. So keep in mind that these weather advantages, right, sometimes can be great, but it's looking like they're impacting ownership now, right? And if they're going to start impacting ownership, then we have to start weighing the balance between, hey, is this like 0.2, 0.3 shot difference worth it? Worth maybe the 4 or 5% increase in ownership, right? Like, because that changes how good a play is, right? If a guy's going to be 5% higher owned than you think, particularly if he's only going to be like 8% owned to begin with, he better be getting a pretty sizable advantage to make that worth it out there. So just a few things to maybe keep in the back of your mind going forward. And I think a lot of it's going to come down to sentiment, right? Like if we're seeing a weather edge that other people aren't seeing, then there's probably not going to be a huge impact. But like this week, for example, piece of content after piece of content was pushing that PM AM stack. If it's going to be that kind of scenario, then I think there could be some stuff to take advantage of there. What are my thoughts on Poston? The putter wasn't working well. Yeah, it hasn't been working well for a while. So it's there's something going on with the putter with JT Poston, which is probably the most surprising thing that we could see from him, right? You can see he's actually over his last 24 rounds losing to the field with the flat stick. Let me see what he did overall. So I haven't seen his shots gained overall for the week. I know he wasn't making a ton of putts, so if he was losing with the flat stick, it wouldn't surprise me. So let's bring it up. Let's take a look at it. Overall, though, the ball striking looks great, Isaiah. He's rounding into form. He's starting to get a little bit more consistent, right? Top 10 finish this week. And with the flat stick, overall, he gained 2 strokes putting this week, but I'd say that's pretty average for him, right? He lost 4 strokes putting in round 4. But in round 3, he gained. Round 2, he was able to gain. And then round 1, he also lost. So, yeah, he's still inconsistent, man, right? He's usually gaining all 4 rounds. He lost 2 strokes in round 4, over a stroke there in round 1. If he's even on neutral those 2 rounds, I mean, that's a top 5 finish at that point. He's probably getting himself into contention. Hopefully he can turn that around because the ball striking is there. And a ball striking JT Poston is a dangerous JT Poston. One that could go on a little heater out there and get a win like he did there at the John Deere. That's all we've got for this live stream, though, guys. Got a lot of content to get into today. We'll be doing our course breakdown next, going over the waste. I almost called it the waste management. The WGC Dell Match Play is the tournament for this week. And then some DFS content, which is going to look a little bit different this week. We've got ourselves a match play format, so it's a little bit wacky when it comes to actually building your lineups, when it comes to looking at the types of players you can even use together in lineups, because when you're looking at the bracket, right, it has to all be about optimization, trying to get 6 players that can make it to the Elite 8. You got to be able to have 4 guys that make it to the Final 4. And ideally, right, you want to have the least amount of guys playing against each other. So there's rules that you can set in optimizers to do so. You want to make sure you're not playing anybody from the same group. All of that will be touched on when we go over DFS this week. And instead of going over like core plays and whatnot, our videos are going to be a little bit more strategy based here. So we're still going to go over a few guys that I do like for the match play, right, in terms of core plays. But the majority of the focus is going to be on making sure that you guys actually know how to go out there and build optimally, which isn't all that hard, right? You sit a few rolls on an optimizer and it's going to pretty much do it for you. But you should have the background knowledge out there to know what the optimizer is doing, right? So you know why it's not pairing up certain guys, right? Like if there's 2 guys in group A together, right, and you really like them, you're like, oh, but why isn't it giving me 2 guys in group A? Well, it's because if you build that way, you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to lineup construction. So there'll be a lot that we go through on that end. Make sure to stay tuned for it. We'll also have, value plays dropping, that sort of thing. But like I said, the majority of the focus this week is going to be on that strategy side. So when you see the content and it's that way, understand that that's the reason for it. But looking forward to it. Should be a lot of fun. We'll be home all this week, which, I like being out there in those courses in person, but it's also nice to be able to get back. My cats have been missing the shit out of me. So as soon as I open up the door, they're going to come running in and just spend some time with them and then not have the black screen of death, right? We can actually do live streams now and get away with it. It's looking like I am going to do showdown content. So if you're looking for the Punta Cana, the Corrales this week, I am going to be doing showdown content for it. 4-round stuff, we'll have to see. I probably not going to focus on the main slate over there, but for showdown, very well could be doing live streams and having some content on Patreon for that. So look forward to it. Hopefully we get some decent contests on that end. The thing I have to say is that showdown last year at Corrales was absolute dog shit in terms of contest selection. Like the big GPP was like a $500 GPP, and it was like a $2.20 max. So they've got to step it up on that end. But if they do, gonna be well worth our time, and obviously huge edge to be had because people are not going to be paying attention to that. So looking forward to it, and see you guys for the rest of the content this week.